this one question is coming, Amber. How do you and Charles find the initial houses? This is going to be off the beaten path, but are we pretty much done with finding the person of the people that own abandoned houses? So can we move on to some other questions?
Yeah, if we're ready to move on, I'm fine.
Okay. Jerry wants to know, how do you initially find the houses for intensive review? This is a pretty big question. Maybe if Charles is there. Is Charles with you?
Yeah, well, he is. Hang on one second. I can get him.
All right. The question is, how do you initially find houses for intensive review? What Jerry's asking is, how do we cull out the ones that are not worth it and get on with how do we identify the ones that we need to chase? And as Charles would say, how do we identify the ones we need to go fishing for tomorrow? So if we can get Charles on here, we'll do it. Bear with me a second.
Hello.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, I'm here.
We kind of finished the section that Amber was dealing with on how to find the owners of abandoned houses, but I did have a question. I know that you have the answer for this. I appreciate you taking the time. Jerry asked, how do you initially find the houses for intensive review? So how do you gate what you're going to go fishing for tomorrow?
Well, here we go, Jerry. You got a minute?
We do.
All right, Jerry, here we go. My wife and I, what we do is we specialize in fishing for foreclosures. What we do is we subscribe to a foreclosure listing service that tells us everybody who is in foreclosure, Jerry. My wife then selects these properties looking for a $50,000 margin between what they borrowed on the house and what the house is worth. I couldn't get much simpler than that. Now, when you first start out, you may not need or go after a $50,000 margin. You may decide that a $10,000 margin is large enough for you. You may decide that $20,000 is large enough for you. In the beginning, any margin you get is better than no margin at all. My wife is putting on the screen here for you foreclosure listing services, looking for foreclosure properties. Now, you got to be real careful here that when you go online that there are a lot of different foreclosure services, and they're selling you lists of outdated foreclosures, REO foreclosures, tax foreclosures, all the above. Jerry, see if we've gotten close on answering your question or what else we could do here.
Well, I want to point this out is that the reason why Charles and Amber, and this is just from my experience with them, the reason why they're looking for a $50,000 margin is because there's going to be more to that story than you're being told by those two numbers. Now, when you get on the listing foreclosures, you're probably going to see what they borrowed, and you're going to see what the tax assessment is. Now, I would venture to say that we've all learned that don't just look at the tax assessment. Go to, if you're in the owner finance niche, or even if you're not, even if you're in the pre-foreclosure niche, you're going to want to go to rental meter and use that formula to establish a sales price based on the rents. And I'm not going to go through that right now. That can be found in the other module. But suffice to say that the tax assessment and the sales price of the value of the house as we know it, the owner finance value as established by rent, could be two dramatically different numbers. And I'm going to say that the tax assessment would be lower and the rental meter backing into the rent owner finance sales price could be much higher. So you might find that your margins would grow if you use the rental meter backing into the rent scenario.
Okay, well here,
Hold on.
Amber had one on the screen here for you just for that. Now she's clicked out of that screen. Hold on a minute.
Well, take your time. There's no big rush here. But what I was getting at while Amber's finding this is that the reason why you want a $50,000 margin is because you're going to have to help these people get to another place. There's going to be late fees and there's going to be different expenses that you're just not going to see by pulling up this stuff. And you need these big margins because you may be thinking you're chasing a $50,000 margin, and by the time you get to the bottom of everything that needs to be done, and that you're going to have to rent a truck, and you're going to have to get them the first couple of months for an apartment, and X, Y, and Z, that can be cut down to $30,000 pretty quick. So the reason why he's searching for large margins is he knows that there's going to be expenses that are not expressed in the numbers that you're seeing on these pages. So that's why he's looking for large margins. Am I right on that?
I don't know that Mitch, of all people, could get much closer. What we do is we go after a larger margin to start with, Jerry, because we're going to have to pay back payments, something to the seller, maybe do what we call a fresh start program where we have to find them an apartment, pay a double deposit, go get a moving truck. When you find these really, really motivated sellers that are willing to sell you or give you their house, they have to have a place to go to. You have to have the ability to get them out of there. And then almost everyone, while they are financially neglected, guess what? They also end up being physically neglected. Walls, paint, carpet, all the above. We have one up on the screen for you, which is one that we have right now. It's one that we just got here, okay? And if you look in this little field here, it shows tax-assessed value is only $64,600, Mitch, okay?
Okay, show me this. Okay, it's right there. Okay, I see it. So you picked this one.
All right. However, when you go to this neighborhood, all right, when we made the agreement to buy this house from the Martinezes, who were in foreclosure, all he wants to do is he says, look, we cannot afford this house anymore. We are behind on the mortgage. We are $4,000 in arrears. My wife is working, but I'm not. And with the money that she's making, we cannot afford to stay here. When you take, and we're talking keeping it simple, Mitch, take a yellow notepad from this particular address, and I drive for 5 streets in one direction and 5 streets the other direction. I'm old school. I stop in front of every house that has a for lease or for sale sign, and I call it and ask, well, I'm parked in front of the house that you have. How much is it? I'm parked in front of the house that you have. How much is it? And we have found that the rentals in here are $995, $975, $1,000, $1,050, and $1,100, Mitch, which based on a 1% value, all right, would put us at $100,000 selling it under the owner finance formula. So all we're really able to do is to take this $64,000 tax value minus what is an estimate of what's still owed on it, and that's $40,000. And okay, there's only a $24,000 margin. So even on this, that margin does not look that great, except for they only owe $36,000 on it, Mitch, on a house that we plan to sell under our formula. I sell everything on the 8s. 88,000, 98,000, 108,000. I'm an 8 kind of guy. So pretty much we've already decided before we make our agreement to buy, or when we make our agreement to buy, that we're selling this 8.
Show me. It says now that $64,600. That's showing what they borrowed. Is that correct or is that wrong?
No, that if you look in that category there, up at the very top, address, zip code, and tax-assessed value.
This is what they borrowed.
And over here, she's going to highlight is the original amount that they borrowed, but they borrowed it back in 1999, Mitch.
Okay, so that's what I wanted you to point out. You have to find out how old this mortgage is so that you can start to estimate what their balance is. You can't just take, what they borrowed and that's the number. You have to take a look at that number of how old is this mortgage. What if that mortgage would have been 1983? It would say that it's almost paid off. So I just wanted to make that point.
Go down on the same page. Go down 5 5 of them. She's highlighting another one for you, Mitch.
Mm-hmm.
And they did borrow money in 1983. In 83, okay? But from 83 to 2003, how many years is that, Mitch? 83 to 93, 93 to 2003. Gee, that would
20. That's 20 years, and now we're past that. We're almost. You're getting close to 28 years. You know.
Mitch, tell me
30
what
years.
profit would be with the tax value at 120.
See, we're only going back to one.
So that's the important of that number over here that they borrowed it in 1983. Will you circle that real quick over there to the right, 1983? See, they borrowed $37,000 in 1983. Well, and then the tax assessment back over here to the left is 120. But we still want to do the rental meter because, you know, you may be able to sell this house for 130, 140, 150. We don't know. So, from the owner finance standpoint, but suffice to say, this is how we kind of. Jerry was asking, how do you determine the ones you want to go fishing for? Well, this is how you're doing it. You're trying to find large spreads between tax assessment or rental meter values as compared to the original finance amount minus the years that they've had that, minus the years that they've paid it down. And in this case, they've been paying on it since 1983. So this becomes a huge margin right here. This would be like one that you would want to go fishing for, right, Charles?
That is correct. And while there are many different ways, Jerry, whether you're fishing for foreclosures or running vacant houses or driving for dollars or doing a mail out or, driving a particular, fishing area, my wife and I, when we do this, every single morning she sits down with a list similar to this, depending upon in what county or area that we are fishing in, and she looks for the oldest year-dated loans, the houses that have the largest potential margin, winds us up and says, here, go fishing. Go knock on this door, go talk to this person, find out if they do really want to get rid of it. But for us, we really like the major motivator of foreclosure because it narrows down that, these people have some kind of a major situation that they have to get out of. They may not want to, but they have to. And you have to find that. You have to find something there that gives you some leverage or gives you some edge to make a good agreement to buy.
Okay, now I want to take a side step here and give me the floor here for a second, Charles. I want to talk to everyone on the call. Now, there's some people that have just paid me. I just had a great group of people in Houston sign up. And I'm not trying to sell another course, or I think we need to stay with what we're doing. But there's three different kinds of people that are probably listening here. There's some people that are already in mentorship with me, and to which I say, let's just finish the job at hand. We're not going to go chasing the shiny object or the next thing, no one's trying to sell you anything else about that. If you've signed up with me, then let's just keep going with where we're going. But there's other people on this call, too. There's some people, I don't even know if they've even bought one house. If you haven't bought a house, then you have some choices that you could contemplate. I have an owner finance course. He has a pre-foreclosure course. Whichever one turns you on, then I would suggest that maybe you get interested in one of those. What I am pointing out to all the people on the call is these two exact methods of finding houses and profiting in creative real estate, they are very closely related. They are very closely related. They're closely related in the searches that you do, in the margins that you look for, in the ways that you can handle them, but they also have succinct differences. And so I just didn't want, Charles, for anyone to think that if they had just recently bought my course that I was trying to sell them another course, because that's not the issue here. What I'm saying is notice the correlation between the two different aspects. And let's get good at one thing or the other before we move. There's people that I know that have taken your course that are on here, and we're not trying to sell them my course in addition. We're not doing that. We're just simply trying to show the correlation between the two. Is that fair, Charles?
That's exactly fair. All I want to do is for those people who want or need help with a particular thing, get the help. It doesn't matter if they get it from Mitch or get it from me or from my wife. Get it from somewhere. Find someone that you could trust, someone that has the experience that you have that is willing to help teach you. Mitch, above all, will tell you the worst experience to have is to go buy the wrong house in the wrong neighborhood and pay too much for it the wrong way, or to borrow hard money when there would have been another alternative that wouldn't have been as hard for you to be able to get into a property and get out of one. You want your first experience to be a good one. You want your second one to be a good one. I had a lady call me one day. She goes, well, I've been trying to get a grip on this. About how many houses do you think it'll take before I have it down? I said, I don't know, a couple hundred maybe. This is something that's hard.
So here's the point. I was strictly focused on doing the owner finance houses, and that's what I do, and that's what I stay with. But after meeting Charles, I learned some things that broadened my horizons. And Charles, and I think Charles will confer, my method was, you're going to either need to use your retirement funds or some funds, or you're going to have to get some private money. And I'm teaching people how to get the private money to work the owner finance method. Now, upon meeting Charles, I found that there was a method in the pre-foreclosure where you could assume these underlying loans at very favorable rates. And a person with not that much money could potentially go into this business of pre-foreclosure and not have to come up with so much money to buy a house. But on the other hand, Charles, and like I said, I think Charles will confer, that he was out here just assuming these notes, but he figured out that if he had some private money, that wow, how he could expand his business. So from the two of us getting together, we both learned from each other. It kind of opened up our horizons. Charles was teaching me how to take over existing loans, and I am right now in the middle of helping Charles learn how to raise some private money, because if he had some private money, he could perhaps double what he's doing. So
two old dogs teaching each other new tricks. And I can truly tell you that I would have thought that there wasn't anyone that could teach me anything until I met you and started talking to you. You're one of the very few people, I know for some reason you doubt my sincerity in this, but you're one of the few people that if I was going to sit down and listen and take notes, I'm going to listen to a guy who's bought and sold over 1,000 houses. And that would be someone like you, Mitch, that's still alive.
All right, well, I think we've had a good session here, and I hope we've done a good job of telling you that we're not trying to get anyone to change their MO. We're just showing the correlations between them. I'm very sincere in that fact. And for those of you who are out there that haven't picked a program of which way to go, either program can make you successful in the real estate department. And frankly, what I'm here for is that you be successful. I don't care which one you pick. I don't care what you do. I just want you to pick one and be successful at it. And so, if there's not anything else, man, I think we might be coming to the wrap up of this session. If there's anything else to add, then Charles, let me know right now, because we're about going to wrap it up here in a minute.
Wrap it up, Mitch.
All right. Well, I kind of figured that was a conclusion, because we pretty much hit this nail on the head right here, I think, just showing the correlation between the two different kinds of businesses. But these websites and these background checks and this ability, like last week, the ability to search title and all the things that we could find. And by the way, these things are archived. If you sign up for the $97 a month, $97 one time and $47 a month, you get to join in on these calls every Monday night, and you also get 400 hours plus of archived Q&As just like this. And if that helps you get more comfortable with Charles or myself, then that's great. And if you learn enough to do it on your own, then that's great too. There's not everybody out there needs. There is an anomaly out there. Charles was one of them. I was one of them. We just went out and did it with the information that we could get for free or for a very nominal cost. Other people, going to need some hand-holding, and we're here for that if you want that. But it's been a good call, Charles and Amber, and I appreciate you for being on the call, and thank you for doing this. I know that you had to spend some time out of your daily routine. I appreciate you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mitch. Take care.
All right. Well, this is the end of the session. If you have any questions or if you would like to meet up with Charles, anything, just email me at mitch@mitchsteven.com. If there's anything we didn't cover, you just let me know. I'll try to answer all the questions and get you in touch with who you want to be in touch with. But that's going to wrap up our session tonight. It's been a good night. Everybody have a successful week. We'll talk to you next Monday.